Number 10, Miley Cyrus. This one's pretty straightforward. Hannah Montana herself, Miley Cyrus, disowned her father Billy Ray after he decided to marry a woman who was on the show Hannah Montana with Miley when she was in her teens. Billy Ray had a stellar country career before Miley got her own show, and some would argue that as time's gone on, she started to outshine her dad. I'm just kidding, there's no argument, she is definitely more famous than her father now. Billy decided to pull a weird move and started dating a woman named Fire Rose, who acted alongside Miley on Hannah Montana. Miley stopped speaking to her father the moment she saw them together, especially after she discovered how much Billy spends on her jewelry and overall gifts. Number 9, Abigail Hopkins. The daughter of Anthony Hopkins used to be spotted with her father constantly. From the time that she was little to her early 20s, she would accompany her dad at red carpet events and film premieres, getting to spend some time with Hollywood's best and brightest. However, the two have not spoken in like 20 years, being bitterly estranged this entire time. In fact, Anthony and his daughter Abigail are so far removed from each other that Anthony recently said he didn't know if she had any kids and didn't care. He also said that he had no idea where she even lived, like he just really doesn't care about his own kid. The tragedy in her life started early when her father divorced her birth mother as a child, and she started living with her mom because Anthony was just never home and he was usually under the influence of something. He became so enamored by No Juice, it took over his life, and his role as a parent was basically non-existent. In this case, they kinda disowned each other. Number 8, all of Brangelina's kids. Well, there's been a lot of stuff being released about Brad Pitt and his adoptive kids this week, and it seems like they may have disowned him for pretty good reasons. Brad's adoptive son, Pax, has gone on record to say that his dad is an a-hole who makes his kids tremble in fear. In an Instagram post, he ranted about Brad's role in his life, and according to him, Brad is just an unhinged man who can snap at a moment's notice. He wrote that Brad made the lives of those closest to him a living hell, and he wrote, "Happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being," that Brad Pitt has time and time again proven himself to be a terrible, despicable person and has no consideration or empathy towards his youngest children who tremble in fear when they're in his presence. He will never understand the damage that he's done to his family because he is incapable of doing so. Brad responded to the comments acting like a parent, saying that he was disappointed in his kids feeling they had to drag his name through the mud. Pax didn't say if there was a specific event that caused the rant, but considering the split that took place between him and Angelina in 2016, the rant is more than likely not baseless and probably has some darker truths behind it. Number 7, the Kardashians. Now I know what you're thinking, how could any of the Kardashians disown their parents? Who else would it be other than Caitlyn Jenner? When the new Kardashian series on Hulu was announced, she expressed her joy for the family, but simultaneously her disappointment with the way things have turned out family-wise. She was there when the journey first started on the very first episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and watched it grow for almost 20 seasons. One of the highlights of her life. And the show was canceled in 2020, but only 3 months later the family signed a new contract to make global content exclusively with Hulu. The Kardashian-Jenner crew have all but disowned Caitlyn, as not only was she not included in the series, but apparently she hasn't spoken to her kids since 2020. Number 6, Hailey Hasselhoff. Being the daughter of the guy from Baywatch sounds like it's the coolest thing in the world, right? Spending long days on the beach, the sun beaming, you get to meet SpongeBob. It's wonderful. But as it turns out, it's actually extremely difficult and it comes with its own set of issues. Hailey was born in 1992 when David Hasselhoff was at the height of his career. Being on Baywatch alone brought in over 1 billion viewers. Hailey had a lot of advantages. Not only was her dad famous, but she grew up in a really nice part of Hollywood, having the film Clueless literally filmed in the house next door. Unfortunately, being born into that kind of environment has left Hailey anxious and mentally struggling when she was growing up. During an interview with People, she explained that she had hardcore social anxiety growing up and found it paralyzing to go to school. She ate to cope with the anxiety, and when she was 11, she was mistreated for her weight. Growing up in Hollywood really just didn't help. She said it was an environment where people wanted to fit in rather than stand out, being surrounded by fakers. As time went on, she wanted to be a part of her father's work, but she was exposed to the dark side of Hollywood when David's no juice habits took over his life. She stopped speaking to her father regularly around that time, and her parents divorced, and these days she works in her own world of fashion modeling, small screen cameos, and of course, sharing body positivity messages. So, good for her. Number 5, Jamie Lynn Spears. Both of the Spears sisters have been through a rough go. Mom loves no juice, and dad's a menace to this planet, but Jamie takes the spot on this list because she's actually disowned her entire family Brittany included. Growing up with her sister in the spotlight was never easy for Jamie, even after she got cast to be the lead of the show Zoe 101, which is, I genuinely thought she was more famous than Brittany when I saw that show. But it turns out that was just a ploy to gain her parents' approval. Instead of gaining that approval, she got a taste of what her sister had to deal with. Her parents were just happy that there was more money coming into their pockets. The older Jamie got, the more complicated life became. When Brittany was under conservatorship, she did everything that she could to be on her parents' side and make Brittany feel worse, even writing a tell-all book before Brittany did. She has never publicly disowned them or signed any paperwork, but she is also a grown woman now and just really doesn't need to do any of that. Number 4, Jack Quaid. You may know Jack from quite a few projects in the past few years. I personally know him best as Huey on the incredible Amazon series The Boys, but he's actually been carving a path for himself, appearing in movies like Scream from 2022, Oppenheimer, and even The Hunger Games. This man is a true treat, but I honestly didn't know that he came from famous parents, and then I saw who his dad was and I felt like a moron, a feeling that I get fairly often. His parents are Dennis Quaid from The Parent Trap and Meg Ryan from every rom-com starring Tom Hanks. You would think being the son of two very well-respected performers would mean that life is but a breeze, but Jack actually decided to distance himself from his family and do his own thing. He knew he wanted to be an actor from a young age and follow in his parents' footsteps. Thankfully, he grew up in a house where that was a real job prospect and they were all for it. But Jack knew that he had an advantage over everyone else and he didn't want to misuse that privilege. In fact, Dennis tried to get him an agent, but Jack refused to accept the help. He eventually found an agent and made his on-screen debut in the first Hunger Games movie. He didn't have a ton of lines, but he was very present throughout most of the runtime. Eventually, he made his way to Amazon, and the rest is history. Still being made. Number 3, Ireland Baldwin. The daughter of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger has been through a lot of ups and downs with her parents. Her father is well known for being a bit loud and unnecessarily mean to his daughters, and for, mishandling props. Her father famously left her a voicemail calling her an ungrateful pig and a bunch of other things that I can't quote, but it actually isn't the phone call that strained her from her parents. It was a medical situation. While making an appearance on the now canceled talk show Red Table Talk, she got candid about her parents and her upbringing. Like many Hollywood kids, she was filled with anxiety and had a deep-rooted fear that people were out to get her or just wanted to simply be with her to be with her parents. This especially made it hard for her to individualize from her parents. She continued to reveal that she had a lot of body image issues growing up and still does, despite being a high-paid model. The divorce between Kim and Alec was difficult, and Ireland was dragged into it, creating a toxic environment at home that left her struggling even more than she already was. She stopped speaking to her parents and created her own career outside of her family. Number 2, Suri Cruise. Despite sharing a child with his ex-wife Katie Holmes, Tom Cruise has not seen his daughter Suri in over 10 years, according to online sources. The reason being, well, they just don't share the same religious beliefs. Tom is a member of the scientific community, if you know what I mean, and his daughter just isn't. When he divorced from Katie, he was informed that he was not allowed to keep in contact if the family did not want to be involved with his views. And on top of this, in recent years, it's been revealed that Tom doesn't even view Suri as his daughter. She is merely a spiritual being inside the body of his daughter. Jeez. At least that's what a book says. Tom says the reason he hasn't spoken to his daughter is because of his busy work schedule. The initial 100-day absence that was reported in the early 2010s was apparently due to Tom filming in London. It was impossible to just see his daughter, but Suri has not come forward publicly to speak out about her dad. Then again, she isn't even in her 20s yet, so why don't we just let her keep her privacy for now? And number 1, Elijah Blue. Musician and artist Elijah Blue opened up about his life being the son of one of the greatest musicians of all time, Cher. Elijah told the people at ET that there were times growing up he felt shunned by his parents, being sent to a boarding school at the age of 7. I didn't know those things were real. I always thought that they just made him up in movies to scare kids, so that's messed up. It's no wonder that he felt abandoned. His mom was Cher, and while she was out touring the world, he was living in a school. That is a nightmare I regularly have. As time has gone on, he has come to terms with his position and accepted it fully, but just because he's accepted it, it doesn't mean that it's okay. He said while in boarding school he'd fly home to see his family in New York on vacations. Well, not his family, he would fly in and throw his stuff down just to leave the house and visit his friends. At an early age, he partook in narcotics and no-no juice that left him rebellious. In his time being a rebel, he developed a case of Lyme disease that forced him to seek treatment in Germany. And he has actually been thankful for that experience because he met his current wife while in Germany. So that's cute. When he was home with his parents, he remembers the house always being full of other people. Not love-making sessions and no-no stuff and rock and roll, but still big parties with lots of adults. As time went on, he spoke less and less with his family, but was still able to create a career for himself.
Number 10. Lily Rose Depp. Like a lot of the stars on today's list, Lily Rose has been known to not acknowledge the fact that she comes from privilege. More so, on many occasions, she's actually fought against the theory of nepotism, playing the biggest hand in her successful career today. Though whether this is true or not is obviously kinda hard to tell. I personally feel like Lily Rose Depp definitely has the look to be in film and be a model, and so that she has working for her. She brought that. I mean, she was born with the way she looks, and she probably works on the way she looks too. And her name and connection to both her celebrity parents has probably also helped to open at least some doors for her. She's the daughter of actor Johnny Depp and singer, model, and actor Vanessa Paradis, and made her film debut in Tusk, which her dad also starred in alongside her. Both Depps starred in the spin-off Yoga Hosers. The model, who's now a Chanel brand ambassador, met the late Chanel creative director Karl Lagerfeld through her mom. She told Elle, "The internet cares a lot more about who your family is than the people who are casting you in things. Maybe you get your foot in the door, but you still just have your foot in the door. There's a lot of work that comes after that." Previously, she told Australian Vogue, "It is obviously a really easy assumption to make to think that I would just have roles landing on my doorstep because of my name. But that's an idea I've always kind of rejected. I've always been under the impression that I have to work twice as hard to prove to people that I'm not just here because it's easy for me. I feel like you're not what your name is. If you're not right for something, they're not just going to hire you because your name looks good on the post." And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you like what we do here at BTS, be sure to click that like button. Number 9. Maggie Gyllenhaal. While some might seem more debatable in terms of how much their nepotism truly paved the way, there are others who, while having a famous name to lean on, actively try to prove their merit and actively challenge themselves creatively. To me, Maggie is one of those people. She's not only extremely talented, but she also comes across as being low-key and down-to-earth. And she hasn't really just settled for safe roles, but has actively sought out more complex ones and diverse ones, even expanding into a director role as well with time. A lot of people seem to forget that both Jake Gyllenhaal and his sister Maggie were born into a family that already worked in the industry, and not only that, I believe they were also born into Swedish royalty as well. Maggie even attributes much of what inspired her to her mother, Naomi Foner, who is a screenwriter and director who received an Academy Award nomination and won a Golden Globe for her screenplay Running on Empty, and directed Very Good Girls, which starred Dakota Fanning and Elizabeth Olsen. Number 8. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow is the daughter of actor Blythe Danner and director and producer Bruce Paltrow. She made her film debut in the TV movie High, which was written and directed by her own father. On Hailey Bieber's YouTube show Who's in My Bathroom, what a weird name for a YouTube show by the way, she said, "As the child of someone, you get access other people don't have, so the playing field is not level in that way. However, I really do feel that once your foot is in the door, which you unfairly got in, then you almost have to work twice as hard and be twice as good." She continued, "People are ready to pull you down and say you don't belong there, or you are only there because of your dad or your mom." I do think Gwyneth had to work hard to prove herself, but I also feel like her nepotism has allowed her to get away with some pretty wild things in regards to building her own brand. Number 7. River Phoenix. Some may not consider River Phoenix a child of nepotism, considering that growing up, his life was honestly kind of rough, and his parents were described by him as hippie-ish. They weren't well-known performers or directors or producers, but that doesn't mean that nepotism didn't play a role in River's success. It was actually his mother, who had a job as a secretary at NBC, that was able to use her position and her connections to get her children a place in the spotlight, calling a casting director at Paramount and getting her son a job in the industry when he was only 8. Basically, putting them in front of the right people. That being said, both River and Joaquin were definitely talented youths, even I'm sure their sisters were, who I believe more than earned their place. Now, in River's case, fame actually ended up being a massive burden on him, one that he actually never sought out, but was more thrown into by his mother. And that cost him dearly in the end, likely playing a key role in him losing his life at the age of 23. Number 6. Hailey Bieber. Some may not know Hailey Bieber is the daughter of actor, director, and producer Stephen Baldwin, and the niece of actors Alec, Daniel, and William Baldwin. Before she was married to Justin, her name was Hailey Baldwin. However, she followed more closely in the footsteps of her model cousin Ireland Baldwin and her model sister Aliyah Baldwin. In 2016, before she married Justin Bieber and changed her name, she told Grazia, "I want to do everything on my own without my name being a factor. I try to keep myself separate from it." She continued, "Kids that already have a famous background are just following in their family's footsteps. My dad and all of his brothers have done this. This is my family business." Some could interpret this as literally using your family's footsteps to pave your way, as opposed to carving your own path. But, it could kind of go either way, really. I understand what people are saying. They come from a family. Obviously, you're going to use those connections. But to what extent? To what extent? That's what we're asking here. Number 5. Rashida Jones. Initially, Rashida Jones didn't even want to be involved in the family business. You might recognize her from the cast of Parks and Recreation, but before ever entering the industry, she was working towards a job in the justice system as a lawyer or possibly even a judge. In fact, she even went to Harvard. She worked really hard to be in that other field. Her father is famous music producer Quincy Jones, and her mother is actress Peggy Lipton, who you might recognize from Twin Peaks, where she played the owner of the Double R Diner, Norma Jennings. It wasn't until later in her life that Rashida decided to change careers and work towards a role in the film industry. Although she comes from folks who work in this industry, Rashida attempted to always apply her father's advice to any job that she worked in. She said he had always advised his daughter that whatever you do, you have to work really hard to get really good at it. Number 4. Kendall Jenner. Kendall Jenner is the daughter of reality star Kris Jenner and Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner. Of course, the model is more well known for her connections to her reality star sisters Kim, Khloe, and Kourtney Kardashian, and Kylie Jenner. She has said before, "Of course I had a platform and I never took that for granted. I always knew that was there, but that almost made my job a little bit harder, only because people probably didn't want to hire me because I was on a reality TV show." Well, that definitely sounds like it would make being taken seriously a bit of a challenge. Many people also never get the opportunity to even be on a reality TV show. Well, I have no doubt this created challenges for Kendall as she worked towards becoming a model, and mental hurdles in regards to, awful things people likely said and say about her online. It's also important to consider that her role on the show likely also opened some doors as well. Number 3. Zoe Kravitz. Zoe Kravitz is the daughter of actor Lisa Bonet and singer Lenny Kravitz. She shares a publicist with her dad. Her standout roles include her part in the Hulu series High Fidelity, which was a TV series remake of the 2000 movie that her mom starred in, and Catwoman in The Batman. Although Zoe had also voiced Catwoman previous to that in the Lego Batman movie. Her first role, however, was a small part in the film No Reservations, where she played a gothic academic babysitter named Charlotte. That being said, I feel that Zoe Kravitz has proven herself as an actress kind of many times over at this point. And while I'm sure her having family in the industry helped her to launch a career, she still started with smaller roles and had to work her way up to becoming Catwoman. In fact, Zoe also has opened up about her own struggles working in the industry, sharing that when she sought to audition for a smaller role in Dark Knight Rises, she was actually turned away, being told that casting wasn't going urban on the part. Number 2. Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner, like her sister Kendall Jenner, is kind of cut from a pretty similar cloth, becoming famous at a young age on the reality TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. A few years ago, Forbes labeled her as the youngest self-made billionaire in history, which of course prompted many people to call out Forbes for mislabeling her, saying that, it's easy to become a billionaire when your parents are millionaires and you come from privilege. That being said, Kylie did smartly use the status she garnered from the show to elevate herself and her brand. So, is she somewhat self-made, or is she not at all self-made? That being said, is anyone really self-made in a world where wealth tends to remain with the wealthy? Number 1. Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård is a talented actor who was also born into a giant film and television and just in general artistic family. The Skarsgårds. I would say his breakout role was as Pennywise the Clown in 2017's It remake, but even before then, he'd been working and hustling in smaller and less well-scripted projects since the year 2000. We gotta go way back. Well, he definitely got help with his name. I'd also just say being a member of the Skarsgård clan gives you a leg up because you're surrounded by a lot of other talented performers, and I think ultimately when we talk about nepotism, it's important to consider that a lot of these people are just inspired by the people around them that help them get to where they are. Both sides of it. Also depends on what you bring to the table. How much work are you putting in? I think we gotta consider that part too. Or how much work are you not putting in?
Number 9. Olivia Jade. Olivia Jade is a YouTuber and daughter of fashion designer Massimo Ginali and actress Lori Loughlin. While in high school, Jade began a social media career on YouTube and Instagram. She is an influencer, and in the blog Pop Culture Died in 2009, it describes Olivia as our era's answer to the bling ring icon Alexis Haynes. While Alexis embodied the aughts unsightly hybrid of sleaze and lux, Olivia exposed the lie at the heart of relatable social media fame, the stars pretending to be just like you and me while shacked in a palace in Beverly Hills. And also there's the college scandal. Yes, I have to bring this up. For those of you who don't know, the college scandal consisted of parents bribing athletic coaches to recruit students regardless of their athletic ability and entrance exam administrators to falsify ACT and SAT answers. Just, straight up fraud. Lori and her husband paid $500,000, to get their two daughters into the University of Southern California as members of the college rowing team, despite neither of the girls ever rowing before. They even staged photos, which were hilarious to me by the way, and it totally makes her complicit. Olivia knew what she and her family were doing and actively participated in it, which is just gross. Number 8. Ben Platt. Ben Platt is an actor, singer, and songwriter. He actually began his career in musical theater as a child, and he is the son of Julie and Mark Platt. His father is a film, television, and theater producer whose credits include Legally Blonde, Into the Woods, La La Land, and the musical Wicked. So no wonder he's famous. Now Ben has been linked to the musical Dear Evan Hansen, where he played the lead role from 2015 to 2017. Critics hailed his work, calling it historic and one of the greatest leading male performances ever seen in a musical. For his performance, he won numerous awards, including the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role in a Musical, becoming the youngest solo winner in that category. Then, it would be announced that the film version of Dear Evan Hansen would come out in 2021. And guess who was producing it? Ben's father, Mark. So, of course, Ben once again took on the role of Evan Hansen. Now, once the trailer dropped, people called out Ben, who was 27 at the time, for playing a high schooler. They also said it was nepotism that got him that role. It could have been a perfect opportunity to give a new young actor a leading role that would change their lives, but nope. Ben took it for himself. Responding to the criticism, he said, "I think the reaction is largely from people who don't understand the context of the piece, the fact that I created the role and workshopped it for 3 years. Were I not to do the movie, it probably wouldn't get made." Which, no, if your father wasn't producing it, then you wouldn't have been in it. End of story. Number 7. Maude Apatow. Maude Apatow is an actress who just so happens to be the eldest daughter of filmmaker Judd Apatow and actress Leslie Mann. She began her career as a child actress playing the daughter of her mother's characters in her father's films, Knocked Up, Funny People, and This Is 40. This opened more doors for her and set her up with people in high places. After joining Twitter, she was noted to have a large online following, which helped her become a contributor to Zooey Deschanel's website Hello Giggles as a writer and interviewer. Her work on the site as well as her acting roles earned her a spot on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in 2012, and she continued to appear in projects her father's produced, and when she was in the 2016 comedy drama film Other People, it was her first large film role not involving her father. But without her parents and their guidance, she would be nowhere near as famous as she is today. Number 6. Lottie Moss. Lottie Moss is a model who, through her father, is the younger half-sister of model Kate Moss, and that's how she garnered her fame. She had a modeling career as a teen, and she now does OnlyFans. But it seems like she hasn't put two and two together in terms of people who don't have those advantages being resentful of those who do. Amid a lot of conversation about the NEPO baby backlash, Lottie took to Twitter not to defend herself or her fellow NEPO babies, but to attack regular people. She said, "I'm so sick of people blaming nepotism for why they aren't rich and famous or successful. Obviously, it's not fair that people who come from famous families are getting a leg up because of that, but guess what? Life isn't fair. If you put your mind to something, you can accomplish anything. So instead of being negative about other people's success, go and try to create your own." But she didn't even create her own success. How hypocritical. Number 5. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow is an actress and businesswoman. She is the daughter of Blythe Danner and film producer-director Bruce Paltrow. Her acting debut was in High, a TV film her father directed, and after spending several summers watching her mother perform at the Williams Theatre Festival in Massachusetts, Gwyneth made her professional stage debut there in 1990. Her film debut followed with a musical romance film Shout. Now, to be honest, I don't have an issue with her being a Nepo baby with her acting. I have an issue with her business. She is the founder and CEO of the lifestyle company Goop, which has been criticized for promoting pseudoscience and harmful wellness tips. Gwyneth has opened up about what she usually eats every day, noting that most of her daily meals consist of a morning coffee, a bone broth soup for lunch, and a paleo-style meal of vegetables for dinner. "It's really important for me to support my detox," the actress mentioned, leaving some social media users to compare her diet to a colonoscopy prep. And I'll say it, it's disordered eating, and she's projecting and encouraging other women to do this, and that's just wrong. Number 4. Jamie Lynn Spears. Jamie Lynn Spears is an actress and singer. Now, she didn't get her fame from her parents, but from her sister, Britney Spears. In February 2002, at age 11, Jamie Lynn made her acting debut in the Paramount Picture drama film Crossroads, which starred her sister Britney. Following this, she got her own Nickelodeon show, which was ultimately canceled after she got pregnant at 16 years old. Then in 2011, Jamie Lynn moved to Nashville with her daughter Maddie and began working on a country music album with a number of local music producers. In July 2021, Worthy Publishing announced her plans to release a memoir, releasing a statement saying Jamie Lynn's book has been in development over the past 12 months and will allow the world to hear her inspiring story in her own words for the first time. Her memoir, entitled Things I Should Have Said, Family, Fame, and Figuring It Out, was released on January 18, 2022. Rolling Stone recommended the book, but highlighted that Jamie Lynn used her sister Britney Spears' highly publicized struggles and conservatorship to promote her new book, which was disgusting. She was once again using her sister to gain fame. Number 3. Kaya Gerber. Kaya Gerber is a model and actress who is the daughter of model Cindy Crawford and businessman Randy Gerber. Speaking to LUS, the model, whose career began at age 10 with a Versace shoot, agreed that her career thus far has certainly been helped by the status of her parents. "I won't deny the privilege that I have, even if it's just the fact that I have a really great source of information and someone to give me great advice. That alone I feel very fortunate for," she said. Adding, "My mom always joked if I could call and book a Chanel campaign, it would be for me and not you. But I've also met amazing people through my mom whom I now get to work with." But in Kaya's eyes, her next career move, a pivot into acting, which she kicked off with an appearance in the Academy Award-winning director Damien Chazelle's Babylon, has not been helped by her parents' big names. With acting, it's so different. No artist is going to sacrifice their vision for someone's kid. That's just how art is made, and what I'm interested is in the art, she said. Yes, nepotism is prevalent, but I think if it actually was what people make it out to be, we'd see even more of it. Naturally, the internet has a lot to say about her take, with one Twitter user writing Kaya Gerber still doesn't quite understand nepotism. She doesn't understand she got instant access to the highest levels of modeling and got instant access to people like Ryan Murphy. She doesn't understand industry levels because she was born at the top, and that is so very true. Number 2. Kendall Jenner. Kendall Jenner is a model, media personality, and socialite. She's the daughter of Kris and Caitlyn Jenner and was on a little show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Due to this, she rose to fame, and with her family's connections, she was able to become a model. And there's no denying that, as it was directly shown on the reality series. She began modeling at the age of 14, and she made her debut at number 16 on Forbes magazine's 2015 list of top earning models with an estimated annual income of $4 million. In 2017, Kendall was named the world's highest paid model by Forbes, and now recently an interview that she did back in 2018 has resurfaced. During an interview with Love magazine, Kendall said she was never one of those girls who would do like 30 shows a season or whatever those girls do. More power to them, but I had a million jobs, not only catwalks but everything else. Now, this made many people angry, including fellow models. The main reason why she's getting backlash again is due to the whole nepotism baby discussion, as Kendall only became a model because of who her family was, and she was able to be selective in what shows she did. Other models didn't have that luxury and had to do 30 shows or whatever in order to survive and get their name out there. Many people feel like she's being spoiled over the whole thing, and I agree. And coming in at number 1 is Hailey Bieber. Hailey Bieber is a model, media personality, and socialite, but before she was Hailey Bieber, she was Hailey Baldwin. The Baldwins are one of the most established families in Hollywood, with the well-known Baldwin brothers Alec, Daniel, Billy, and Steven, Hailey's dad, taking the film and TV world by storm around the 80s and 90s particularly. Now, Hailey has even been labeled a double NEPO, referring not only to her father, but also her husband Justin Bieber, because that's how she reached her fame. She's literally known for being Justin's wife. Now, after a lot of the Nepo baby discourse, Hailey called the paparazzi on herself to a parking garage so they could take photos of her in jeans and a shirt that said Nepo baby. For a model, she sure didn't do a good job. Now, in the past, she's chatted with Gwyneth Paltrow about the subject, seemingly agreeing with Gwyneth's assessment that children of celebrities must work twice as hard because of their family association. Gwyneth herself has shown support for Hailey following the t-shirt stunt, commenting on InStyle's Instagram page, "I might need a few of these." But honestly, I just think it's pathetic.
Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is Elle King. If you're like me, then this might surprise you because I am a fan of Elle, but I had no idea that these were her parents. Her mom is the model London King, and her dad is actor Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider! How did I not know this? Her real name when she was born was Tanner L. Schneider, but she grew up in Ohio with her mom and stepdad. It wasn't until she grew older that she had a strong relationship with her actual dad. She spoke about her experience growing up with famous parents and said, "I got kicked out of school in 8th grade. It was a horrible place, just rich kids being bad. When you grow up in New York with famous parents, you kind of end up running into other kids with famous parents." Not gonna lie, that don't sound all that bad. I wouldn't mind having like rich parents at some rich school and run into other kids with rich parents. That sounds like a blast. Moving on to number 9, we have Ben Stiller. Another one on this list that I didn't realize, and you're probably all gonna make fun of me because I bet you guys realized it. Ben Stiller is a hilarious actor and comedian with a successful career, but so is his dad, Jerry Stiller, who starred on the iconic TV series Seinfeld. Ben credits both of his parents for his career though, his mom as well, and Mira. During an interview, he said, "If my parents were like plumbers, who knows what I would be doing." He's open about the fact that comedy and acting has always been a part of his life since he was a kid, so he knew that it would be the field of work that he just grew into. I feel like that always happens though, or most of the time. Like when your parents grow up in the industry, it's kind of easy to just follow in their footsteps, plus use their connections. Know what I'm saying? Next up at number 8 is Emma Roberts. Many people know her for being related to actress Julia Roberts, who is her aunt, but her dad is famous too. Her dad is actor Eric Roberts, so between her dad and her aunt, she's always been heavily influenced by the industry. But Emma has talked about this fact and says that she's always tried to make decisions for herself despite having a famous connection. She talked about it and said, I think it's important to choose, to make decisions for yourself, and that's part of growing up in my career you have. I think you need to know what you like and what you don't and how you want to build a career. So although she's had some influences in her acting career, she does stand firm that she's made decisions on her own. Sliding into number 7 is Charlie Sheen. His dad, Martin Sheen, has been in the acting industry for many years, first getting recognized for his work in Badlands, The Subject Was Roses, and The West Wing. So it's not surprising that Charlie would take after his father and pursue an acting career. He admits that they didn't always have a strong relationship, but that they grew closer in recent years. When talking about his dad, he said, "We are such better friends than we've ever been. We don't judge each other. It's nothing but fun when we hang out. We don't agree on everything, obviously. I mean, what father and son do. He's a special cat and I'm really lucky to have him." Charlie admitted that after he was diagnosed with HIV, it was one of the things that brought them closer together and helped them create a strong bond. Up next, number 6 is Nicole Richie. When she first broke out into the scene, we just knew her as Paris Hilton's best friend on the TV series The Simple Life. But how exactly did she break out into the industry in the first place? We know Paris comes from a wealthy, well-known family, but Nicole does too. Her dad is the iconic singer Lionel Richie, believe it or not. Nicole admitted her childhood was surrounded by many celebrities, including Michael Jackson. She talked about her childhood and said, "When your father is Lionel Richie, you grow up with some pretty famous people around the house, like Prince and Michael Jackson. From what I remember, it was pretty normal to me. There were a lot of people around is what I remember. There were people in and out of the house pretty much all the time, but now that I'm older and I'm in the business, I get it." That's crazy. Can you imagine just like chilling at home as a kid and Michael Jackson and Prince are coming over? That is so cool. Halfway through the list is Dakota Johnson. The 50 Shades of Grey actress has not only one, but 2 famous parents and a famous grandmother. Her dad is actor Don Johnson, who starred on the TV series Miami Vice and Nash Bridges. And her mom, Melanie Griffith, is known for starring in Body Double and Working Girl. And her grandma is actually Tippi Hedren, who took the lead in the iconic movie The Birds. So between all of them, they have a pretty impressive family resume. Having 3 generations that all have a successful acting career is pretty freaking cool. Dakota has made jokes about her childhood though, saying the worst part about having parents in the film industry is that she had to watch them have sex with other people on screen. She said she lost her mind and didn't know how to handle it. Not gonna lie, never thought of that aspect. Like, how creepy would that be to watch a movie and it's your mom or your dad and they canoodling with someone else on screen? That'd be so creepy. Even now as an adult, like, that is not what I want to watch. Here now at number 4 is Kelly Osbourne. Just by hearing Osbourne, you already know her entire family basically. Her dad is the frontman of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, and her mom is the co-host on The Talk, Sharon Osbourne. Kelly was born into fame and admits that she's been famous her whole life because of her parents' reputation. She talked about it and said, "I've been famous since the day I was born within the rock and roll world, and I've been famous since my teens because of the Osbournes. I woke up one day and was one of the most well-known 16-year-olds in the world, and it scared me. It literally happened overnight." The Osbournes was a reality TV show that their family had back in 2002 to 2005 that basically just followed their family around, kind of like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but them. People got to see a more personal side to all of them, and that's when they really fell in love with them. Taking over the 3rd spot is Willow and Jaden Smith. Many people would argue that these two would not have a career if it wasn't for their parents and their family name. Their dad, Will Smith, is one of the biggest actors in Hollywood and has been for many years. And their mom, Jada Smith, also a successful actress, producer, and talk show host. Both Jaden and Willow have turned to the music side of the industry. Willow is a singer and Jaden is a rapper, but Will did get them involved in some acting when they were younger. Willow has always appreciated their position in Hollywood and said, "Growing up, all I saw was my parents trying to be the best people they could be, and people coming to them for wisdom, coming to them for guidance, and them not putting themselves on a pedestal, but literally being face to face with these people and saying, 'I'm no better than you.'" To be honest, I can see them being like that. I get this vibe from Will Smith that he is doesn't doesn't care that he's a celebrity, like doesn't want the fame, and like if you met him, I bet he'd be so down to earth and like on your level. Just a random assumption, but maybe I'll meet him and I'll let you know. Rolling into number 2 is Liv Tyler. If we're being honest, she will probably always be identified as Steven Tyler's daughter. That's what happens when you're the frontman of a band like Aerosmith. Many people thought Liv was going to grow up and be a musician just like her dad. Even she thought that at one point. Liv did an interview back in 1994 when she was 17 years old and said, "I've always liked to sing, and as a little girl I thought I'd be a singer. My mom was a singer too, but I never felt any pressure from my parents. Then acting just happened, and it happened so quickly, so I took advantage." She also revealed that she didn't actually know her dad until she was about 9 years old because she actually grew up in Maine and was raised by her mother. And although she was constantly surrounded by Aerosmith, she claims that she never let herself get caught up in it. In the number 1 spot is the Kardashian sisters. If you don't follow any of the Kardashian sisters, then you would just assume they got famous from the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians or from Kim's sex tape. But why is their family known in the first place? It was actually because of their dad, who passed away, Robert Kardashian. He was a famous attorney and businessman who gained national recognition as O.J. Simpson's friend and defense attorney during the legendary case back in 1995. After he passed and their lives continued on, the girls were already known for their family name, and their show also included Bruce Jenner, who was an Olympic champion at the time, and it was their stepdad for many years. They all started their own careers based off the fame that they got from that show, but from the family name. Isn't it crazy to think that this all started with an attorney working on a murder case? How crazy is that? Like literally had nothing to do with like Hollywood or beauty or anything. So weird.
Number 9, Drew Barrymore. Many people don't know that Drew Barrymore comes from a family full of actors, which starts with her great-grandparents who were both stage actors and since has continued on as each generation of her family has had members that have gained some measures of success in the industry. For instance, Lionel Barrymore, who was born in 1978, was best known for playing Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. And Drew's mother, Jade, is not the most successful member of the clan, but she was acting in a large array of projects and earned herself some notoriety when Jade also did pose for Playboy. And she's mostly just famous because of Drew's successful acting career. Considering that Drew followed her into the industry, you may have forgotten at one point of their lives they seem to be pretty close, but that's actually not the case, as Drew is pretty much estranged from her mom, and she's even been quoted saying, "Can't really be in each other's lives." Being emancipated from her parents since the age of 14, Drew knew she had to get away from her mother at a young age because at the age of 9, her mother was making her adopt this party lifestyle while bringing her to Studio 54. While Drew was able to forgive her parents, she said that she will always be there for her mom, but sometimes she realizes that their chemistry and behavior will drum up a feeling that makes her say that she needs a break again. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Kate Hudson. Back in 2021, Kate Hudson would open up about her complex family dynamic, including her estrangement from her father. In an interview with Today, the actress would speak about growing up distant from her dad, who is a musician and actor, Bill Hudson. In the interview, Kate would say, "I think estrangement is unfortunately quite common. I think it's important for people to talk about that. If they can't reconnect or if it's too challenging, that's okay, right? I have a great family, I have a beautiful mother, I have a stepfather who stepped in and played a huge part in sharing what it is to have a dependable father figure in our life. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we didn't know our dad. Even though Kate is estranged from her dad, she would note that she has gone through a process that made her look at her dad and realize that she does still have love for him and that the love will never go anywhere. However, her healing process has been pretty personal and she feels like sometimes people just want to hear that they're not alone in that. Number 7, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan is one of those celebrities that was so big at at one point in the industry that she actually was able to make her family become minor celebrities. But it's pretty sad to say that her parents owe their low level of fame due to their dysfunctional relationship with their daughter. Things between Lindsay Lohan and her mother Dina have been pretty difficult in the past, with the actress and singer making several negative statements about her mother, but it seems like it's really Lindsay's dad Michael that Lindsay has the most troubles with, as Lindsay has even revealed her distaste for her father by even going as far to record a song that highlighted her treatment from her father. And she has even once described her father Michael as being a lunatic. Just by judging their past history, we can totally understand why Lindsay has chosen to live her life without her father's shadow, as he has done some pretty outrageous things to her. For an example, do you remember when he once recorded a phone call she made to him when she felt like her mother was out of control, and then he turned around and sold the private conversation to the media? If your parents saw you as a commodity to give them fame and money, you'd probably turn away from them as well too. Number 6, Brody Jenner. Now Brody Jenner is famous due to the accomplishment of people he is related to. That is actually a thing that is possible in modern society. Now if you don't know who Brody Jenner is, he is the son of athlete who competed as Bruce Jenner, who later married into the Kardashian family and then publicly transitioned into becoming the beautiful Caitlyn Jenner, and the stepson of Kris Jenner, the leader of the Kardashian media empire. While Brody was briefly featured on the reality TV series Keeping Up with the Kardashians at one time, things have since gotten a little less cordial. After she and Caitlyn had been separated, Brody has not kept his feelings towards his former stepmother or her children a secret. He even came for the Kardashian empire when he was quoted saying that the Kardashians are not his family, but more of a profanity-laced manner at Coachella in 2016. In an earlier interview, he would also reveal that he had cut ties with Kris. Number 5, Angelina Jolie. Arguably at one point, Angelina was the biggest actress in the world, and she will always be remembered for her roles in films like Tomb Raider, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Maleficent, and many more. Being the daughter of Jon Voight, her dad was also one of the most famous actors in the world at one point due to his work in movies like Midnight Cowboy and Deliverance, and still gets regular acting work to this day. Running in a lot of the same circles, you would think that this quality may draw them closer to another, but it's far from that case. It appears that both actors have struggled to have a strong relationship since Angelina was 8 years old. While it looks like they had moments of reconciliation, signs of severe rifts have surfaced. While Jon has pleaded with Angelina to get help in some public interviews, instead of listening to her dad, she's taken things to another level and completely erased him from her life. She even legally changed her name from Angelina Jolie Voight to Angelina Jolie to obviously make a jab at her father, which is actually pretty messed up. Number 4, the Jacksons. There is no doubt that the Jackson family is one of the most celebrated families when it comes to the history of music. First coming into prominence due to the Jackson 5, they would gain huge success. Nobody could have ever expected the group would be that huge, and overshadowed in the years to come. When Michael went out on his own as a solo star, he became one of the biggest celebrities alive and was nicknamed the King of Pop for good reasons. Not one to stay in the shadows, even his little sister Janet would follow her brothers into the music industry and outdid everyone other than Michael, whose career she arguably rivaled with at one time. With so many superstars coming from one single family, it looks like they can owe a lot of their acclaimed fame to their father Joe, who from all the accounts pushed them hard to be as close as perfect as possible. Unfortunately, that came in the forms of physical altercations, which he admitted to in 2010, and because of that, he was seen by his kids and much of the public as a monster, especially when it came to his altercations with Michael Jackson. As a result, there have been reports that Michael couldn't forgive him, and Joe has largely been excommunicated from his large family. Number 3, Anna Chickadee Cardwell. For those of you who aren't really fans of reality TV, then you may have no idea who Anna Chickadee Cardwell is, but for anyone who enjoys reality TV, then you most likely know who she is, thanks to the spin-off of a highly controversial show called Toddlers and Tiaras. The show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo focused on a unique beauty pageant family that all go by interesting nicknames like Sugar Bear and Chubbs, and one of the daughters who went by Chickadee. And she's grown up and has her own family since the cancellation of the show that introduced her to the world. Her relationship with her mother has become strained, publicly claiming that Mama June, as she is known, misappropriated the funds she earned from a
appearing on the show. It's clear that Anna holds a lot of anger towards her mother. While June has continued to deny Anna's claims, she has stated that the money was sent directly to her daughter's bank account, and the distrust between them means that June is not allowed to have unsupervised contact with her granddaughter. And number 2, we have Dimitri Bell. When Dimitri Bell first got drafted into the Buffalo Bills NFL team in 2008, Bell played well enough that he was able to continue to play for the Cowboys as late as 2013. Like all professionals, he has been the topic of a lot of discussions, but his career isn't the first reason he has been on the lips of people. That is because he is the son of 14-time NBA All-Star player Karl Malone, and his relationship with his dad has never been anything close to controversial. The child of Gloria Bell, who was only 13 years old at the time of his birth, and his father, who was 20 the year he was born, spent years denying he fathered a child with a minor. When Bell finally learned about his parentage and met his father after graduating from high school, he finally met his father, and his father would tell him it was too late to have a father and son relationship. According to reports, Bell is said to be ashamed of the relationship he shares with his father, which is a strong indication that he has a lot of justified anger towards his father. Number 1, Frances Bean Cobain. Being the child of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain and his wife Courtney Love, who fronted the band Hole, since Frances Bean Cobain was born, she was instantly put into a position that meant the world was likely to pay attention to her. And while it seemed like she should have had a life full of luxury and peace, it was actually far from that. When Frances's father took his own life when she was a child, Courtney would fall into perils of substance and addiction, and Frances's home life would become very difficult. Despite being a child of music icon, Frances doesn't see her father in the same light that much as the world sees her father in. Instead, Frances feels like Kurt abandoned her in the worst possible way, and she isn't exactly fond of her mom. When Frances was finally able to emancipate herself from her mother, Frances would break off nearly all contact she had with her mother for years, to the point that when Frances tweeted out to her mom in 2012, it was seen as a breakthrough between them.
Number 10, Ariel Winter. Ariel has been acting since she was just a little bean, starring in movies like Speed Racer and Fred 2, Night of the Living Fred. That's right, remember that guy? But it was her role as young Alex Dunphy on the hit sitcom Modern Family that skyrocketed her to fame. But despite her having a solid relationship with her on-screen family, her real family was a completely different story. Ariel became a legally emancipated minor when she was 17, and I know what you're thinking, like why not just wait the extra year? Well, apparently the situation had gotten so difficult that it was the only thing she could do. According to Ariel, her mother was a tyrant on set, which jeopardized her future in both sitcoms and acting in general. Her attorneys argued that her mother was emotionally manipulative and very physically violent with her daughter, even depriving her of food during tapings of the show. Her mother, of course, denied the allegations and claimed that her daughter was making things up because she caught her getting busy with a younger dude. Hey, even if she did, that doesn't help your situation, lady. A judge eventually ruled that she would be granted emancipation, and she celebrated by thanking her Twitter fans. Number 9, Macaulay Culkin. Culkin was only 9 when he starred in the first Home Alone movie, and he quickly became a household name in the world of Hollywood. Despite being a rising star with several award nominations under his belt, Culkin decided to leave the acting industry at the age of 14 in 1994, shortly after appearing as the lead in Donald Petrie's comedy, Richie Rich. One of the main reasons he decided to call it quits was due to his parents, Kit and Patricia Culkin. Throughout his entire childhood, they were attempting to steal as much money from their son as possible. Seeing as they were his legal guardians, they were technically in charge of his finances until he was old enough to live on his own. Instead, they would take his money and just use it for their own personal fun time. So, at the age of 14, he cut his parents off for good by emancipating himself and retiring from acting altogether. Literally 1 year after this happened, his parents got divorced and began a long and terrible legal battle for their other 7 kids. Since then, Macaulay has developed a much stronger relationship with his siblings and has returned to the acting world, first appearing in American Horror Story Season 10. Number 8, Amanda Bynes. Amanda was once a young up-and-coming star in the world of child acting, having starred in her own Nickelodeon show and eventually moving on to the big screen for a short period of time. Unfortunately, around 2013, she took to her highly charged Twitter account to make a series of alarming accusations, including claims that her father was verbal and physical towards her on numerous occasions. She later deleted the tweets and claimed that what she said was a lie and that the microchip planted in her brain made her do it. Now, that did not help her situation. Amanda has a long, strange history with her parents. At one point, they were all very close, but by the time that she was 12, she had starred in a show with her own name as the title. Apparently, all the fame and rising fortune began to divide the family unit, and she attempted to emancipate herself from them, but suddenly withdrew the petition last minute. According to Amanda, her father was the main source of the issues. He was controlling and a very strict man, and he basically just told Amanda what she could and couldn't do every second of every day. Since 2013, Amanda has gotten better in terms of her mental health, but she will likely never act again. Number 7. Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is a sweetheart. This woman is one of the most loved child actors that still works to this day. However, her early life in Hollywood was actually filled with a ton of heartache. Her mother was the main antagonist of her life. According to Drew's memoir, Wildflower, she had lost credibility as a mother by taking her to Studio 54 instead of school. Studio 54 was a Broadway theater and a nightclub, which was a very healthy environment for a child. Between the ages of 7 and 14, she was forced to quickly grow up, having to take care of herself when her mother was out and about. But her always being gone meant that Drew had access to the cupboards where mom kept her stash of goodies, like no-no snow, no-no juice, and even some herbs and spices all rolled up and ready to go. But by 14, she was considered to be difficult and unhirable, prompting her to make a massive change in her acting life and personal one as well. Realizing her mother was the main cause of her problems, she started the process of legally emancipating herself, and according to the memoir, Drew's mom was actually very supportive of this choice, which was just another red flag for Drew. Her mom was stoked to not have a kid anymore. She was free to have fun and they could build a new relationship as part-time friends, but that did not happen the way she expected. Following the emancipation, Drew moved into a building with her close friend and began working at a local coffee shop that turned out to be a Hollywood hot night spot. She eventually got more work and rose to her current status as a Hollywood superstar. Number 6. Jaden Smith. Will's son Jaden was trying to make a name for himself very early on in his life, being a part of several projects with his father Will Smith as either a fellow actor or a producer. In 2013, the pair acted together in a terrible little sci-fi movie called After Earth. The plot was lame, the story was dry, and most people collectively agreed that it was the worst movie of both of their careers so far. Jaden was apparently fed up with the negative reception of the film and himself, so he decided to go the extreme and separate himself from his family. In his memoir, simply titled Will Smith writes about a time shortly following the After Earth's release, when Jaden approached him to have a serious sit-down about the possibility of emancipating himself. Will wrote that the worst part about the entire situation was the fact that he dragged his own son into the movie and made him the target of the relentless mocking from critics and fans online. Will remembers the moment as crushing. Ultimately, Jaden did not go through with the paperwork though, but he has distanced himself heavily from his family over the years and seems to be doing very well, now mainly being involved in the world of fashion and music. Number 5. Jamie Presley. Jamie may be known for her iconic roles in TV and film like My Name is Earl and of course Joe Dirt, but Jamie actually started out as a model before making her way into the acting world. Starting out in the business when she was just 13, her choice to emancipate herself actually came from a job opportunity 1 year later when she was 14. She had apparently been applying for more modeling gigs behind her parents' back, and eventually one of them accepted and offered her a job. That job was of course in Japan, so there was only one way for her to make the move and start her career. Without telling her parents, Jamie legally emancipated herself and moved to Japan to model. After a few years of actual modeling, that's right, it wasn't a scam, she realized that she seriously hurt her family and returned to make amends. In the end, they were able to stitch themselves back together and her career only went up from there. Number 4. Corey Feldman. Corey got his start in the acting business when he was just 3 years old, but it was a decision that he was forced into by his parents. As the years went by, Corey was able to find work in several cult classics like The Goonies and Gremlins, but his entire childhood was controlled by his parents. Corey alleged that he was worth $1 million by the time that he was 15, but thanks to his parents, he only had about $40,000 left. He was declared legally emancipated by his 16th birthday and was ready for a new life as a legal adult. Eventually, he moved into his own apartment and started climbing the ladder of success again with hits like The Lost Boys and License to Drive. He also developed a heavy no-no snow habit and dabbled with psychedelics like Shroomy Woomies and the Little Paper Pals. This eventually blossomed into a spicy spoon juice habit that led to 3 substance-based arrests before Feldman entered into rehab in December 1990. Number 3. Alicia Silverstone. In case you forgot, Alicia portrayed the main character of the classic comedy Clueless, but I personally know her as the only good thing about Batman and Robin. Silverstone sought emancipation because she actually wanted to skirt child labor laws, according to a 1995 Rolling Stone profile. Her career began picking up steam when she was just 15 years old, back when she was offered a lead role in The Crush. At the behest of the producers of the film, Alicia and her father found a place in Oakland, California that would legally emancipate her from her parents. The logic behind the move was actually very sound. If you're emancipated, it means that you were legally 18 and you can work crazy hours. Many child stars are often limited to the time that they can spend on set. Her father was not stoked about the idea of his little girl becoming a legal adult, especially considering that both her parents were nothing but supportive to her throughout her entire life. But they ultimately put her career first and made the call. While she did have some success for a few more years, Silverstone actually stopped acting around the start of 2000s, with Scooby-Doo and Alex Rider Operation Stormbreaker being some of her last big budget projects. One is a classic, and the other one you probably haven't heard of before today. Number 2. Juliette Lewis. Juliette Lewis has made her name in the realm of acting and singing. She received an Academy Award nomination in 1991 for her role in the movie Cape Fear when she was only 18 years old. She had been dedicated to acting since she was 7 years old, starring in teen TV shows and movies for a majority of her childhood. She was so dedicated to acting that she decided to emancipate herself when she was 14, but her parents were beyond supportive. She had a wonderful relationship with her mom and dad, who were both creatives themselves, when Juliette was cast in her first full-time TV show gig. She realized that despite her tenacity, that she would have to follow strict regulations and hours regarding child acting. She decided that she wanted more hours and more work, so she asked her parents about the emancipation process. They immediately got so excited and walked her through step by step, helping their little girl rake in all that cash. The move paid off, as the little-known sitcom I Married Dora gave her the boost that she needed to get her big break, and eventually she quit school at 15 and received her first Oscar nomination before she was 20. And at number 1, Jenna Malone. Jenna has been a part of a few big budget projects over the years, but most notably as Johanna Mason in the Hunger Games series. Much like many child stars on this list, her parents became in charge of her finances at a young age due to her successful roles in movies like Contact and Ellen Foster when she was just 13. Her parents mismanaged her money hard. According to the LA Times, her mother Debbie basically lived off her daughter's checks, blowing money on business schemes and down payments for houses. She even emptied out her college savings and took money from her trust fund. As a result, Jenna owed $20,000 in back taxes. There was apparently some strange tax situation that could only be solved if she were to become a legal adult. Thankfully, a judge ruled in her favor and she was able to take control of her finances. In a strange twist, the situation actually brought these two closer together, with Jenna claiming that her relationship with her mother is currently better than ever.
At number 10, we have Miley Cyrus. In the wake of her parents' bitter divorce, Miley Cyrus has completely shut out her dad. After Miley's mom Tish filed for papers back in April to end the 20-year marriage to Billy Ray Cyrus, a bitter family feud would explode and it would be displayed among the tabloids. And with it, Miley would finally cut off old ties she had with her father. Miley is simply done with her father, and it has even been said that she's always felt like her father was trying to cash in on her fame, dating back to the days when she played Hannah Montana. Miley believes the only one who ever truly looked out for her was her own mother, and that this huge rift may never heal. To add more fuel to the fire, Billy Ray Cyrus is apparently now engaged to singer Fire Rose, who he met while he was working on the set of Hannah Montana. Now, Miley definitely knows something none of us know, and it's leading to her resentment of her father. Many of Miley's friends have described the star of being incredibly stressed and feared that the wild child might just fall off her wagon again, as the family being in tatters could trigger another spiral. At number 9, we have Eminem. Eminem's boundless rage at his mother mirrors the invasiveness of her maternal love. Now, Eminem and his mother have been estranged for years, following the use of substances, accusations, and lawsuits. When Debbie became pregnant with Eminem at the age of 18, the rapper's father would abandon him right after he was born. Since leaving home, the rapper has gone on to slam his mother in songs for her lifestyle and how she raised him in not so good conditions. Debbie would eventually sue Eminem $10 million, claiming he was slandering her on the Slim Shady LP. Eminem's lawyers would then come out to say that Eminem's life is reflected in his music, and everything he has said can be verified as true. Debbie has then gone on to deny the claims, however. The two have since stayed estranged, and there's no hope for these two to reconcile anytime soon. Hey Peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. At number 8, we have Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin has discussed his childhood growing up and his relationship with his father, and it's heartbreaking to hear. When the former child star sat down with Marc Maron on an episode of his WTF podcast, Macaulay would go on to discuss the relationship he has with his estranged father, Kit. He would say that his relationship was physically and mentally draining, and because his father was his manager when he was younger, he would have to travel with his son to auditions and film sets. Despite the pair working relationship, they were never close. Macaulay would then say he goes all around the world locked in a room with a man who didn't like him. Macaulay's father even went as far to scare him into not using cue cards on SNL, and Kit also tried to use his power as his son's manager to gain creative control over his son's films, which would soon prompt Macaulay to depart from acting at the age of 14. Macaulay also had to erase both his parents off of his bank account just so they would stop eating away at his giant fortune that he earned as a child actor. So it's no wonder why he cut his dad off. At number 7, Drew Barrymore. At the age of 7, Drew Barrymore would become a household name thanks to her role in the film E.T. With Drew's mother never being prepared to be a parent, when raising her daughter, she didn't always make the right decisions. After Drew's parents got divorced, her mother would take her to Studio 54, where she would be introduced to illegal substances and encouraged to dance with young famous men. By the age of 8, Drew would start to consider herself as a party girl, and she was trying to keep up with her mother's lifestyle. By the age of 12, Drew would go through a stint of rehabilitation, and her mother would go on to lose the credibility as a parent. By the time Drew turned 14, she would be emancipated from her mother, and by divorcing her mother, she would continue to live independently before she turned 16. The star then went on to self-educate herself and later became the actor and woman that most look up to today. Drew has always felt guilty, and she's had empathy and utter sensitivity towards her mother, but realized that the two can't be in each other's lives at this point. At number 6, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan's relationship with her father Michael is rocky at best, and the two often go years without speaking to each other. Lindsay's rocky relationship with her father dates all the way back to when the actor was a child, when Michael began to struggle with substances. Lindsay has once even said that her father put herself and her family through hell following a stint of verbal altercations. In 2012, Lindsay would call her father following an argument with her mom, and her dad would later sell this phone call to the press, which would result in Lindsay to fully cut off her dad by 2016 after she became so fed up with her father spreading rumors about her in the tabloids. I mean, considering her father also posted her number online for everybody to see, I don't blame this star's decision to keep her father out of her life from time to time. At number 5, we have Emma Roberts. Not too long after Emma was born, her father Eric Roberts abandoned her, leaving the star to grow up with her mother in Los Angeles. While Emma's parents would become enemies following their split, even Eric's sister, Julia Roberts, would be against his custody of Emma, and she would even help Emma's mother gain custody of the star. Years later, it would be revealed that Eric was struggling with substances, and that's why his sister didn't support him having Emma during the bitter battle. Despite following her father's footsteps, Emma isn't on best terms with her father, and rather being a father to his own child, he became a stepdad to Keaton and Morgan Simmons. Emma's mom took on the role of a mom and dad, so with her father being absent at most events and taking credit for her career, it only makes sense why the star chooses to hush her father out. At number 4, Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie's estrangement from her father, Papa John Voight, was finally finalized in 2002 when she legally dropped Voight from her last name. Angelina ultimately decided to petition her last name to be changed just a month before her father's interview with Access Hollywood. During the interview, he would go on to complain that she hadn't let him see his grandchild, and he pleaded for her to get help for specific mental problems. Angelina, who co-starred in the movie Tomb Raider with her father, would respond in the statement by saying, "I don't want to make public the reason for my bad relationship with my father. After all these years, I have determined that it's not healthy for me to be around my father, especially now that I'm responsible for my own child." And number 3, Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan hasn't seen his mom for 21 years. For years, Tracy's mom and sister have have been bad-mouthing him to the media for refusing to help save his mother's home from foreclosure. Tracy became extremely saddened by the untrue stories, and he began to grow tired of people questioning his commitment to his family. In an interview with ABC News, Tracy went on to state that the reasons they aren't talking are between them, and that he hasn't seen his mother in 11 years outside of a random call here and there, and he's had little to no contact with his sister. Tracy was also helping his mother pay for the mortgage after she lost her job. However, after his mom and sister started talking to the media, Tracy would ultimately change his mind. And number 2, we have Frances Bean Cobain. Now, Frances Bean Cobain didn't officially cut off her mother, however, she did have a restraining order in place. Since Frances was a minor at the time, the allegations would remain sealed. However, that didn't stop tabloids from running story about what truly happened. The Daily Mail would claim that Frances took exception to Courtney Love's alleged substance use, and that they even cited some of Frances' testimony. Frances would say that her mom rarely ate, and she would often fall asleep with lit cigarettes in her mouth, and how she was afraid something bad would happen under the care of her mother. It was also then claimed that Courtney's actions led to the passing of 2 family pets, and this would leave her daughter to file for the restraining order so that her grandmother and aunt could be temporary guardians so she could get away. And at number 1 today, we have Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler didn't even know Steven Tyler was her father until she was 11 years old. Until that point, she believed that Todd Rundgren was her biological father. While Todd always knew there was a chance he wasn't Liv's father, he signed the birth certificate and gave her his last name and stepped in to raise her as his own. When Liv met Steven when she was 8 years old at one of Todd's concerts, she fell madly in love with him and would even go on to buy posters and talk to them. While Todd knew her father's true identity, he decided to keep it a secret due to Steven's reported substance use. In 2009, Liv would say that in the past few years, we haven't been very close. He's also been going through some things on his own, and he hasn't been around that much for us.